Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Forum. You'll notice this morning that we actually have the classroom is set up for testing later, so it doesn't have its usual form. So if you feel like you're back in college, then technically you are. So we have a great program this morning. One of the things that we learned, most folks actually know this all the time, but one of the things that we learned through a meeting that was hosted by Region 10 was when the state demographer came over and gave a presentation that you'll never guess what the #1 priority for the state of Colorado is, outside of COVID, of course, is what? Childcare and lack thereof, right? And so this morning we have a great presentation by a couple of folks here that are experts in our local childcare and lack thereof. And they want to give a presentation really to make us all aware of what can we do, as a community, as a region, what can we do to provide that local access. So without stealing any more of their thunder, which that was probably the main point you were going to make. So we have Kathleen and Chrissy with us this morning. Kathleen Merritt has served as Bright Futures Executive Director for over 5 years. And Bright Futures is a nonprofit dedicated to improving the lives of children and families in the San Juan region. Under her leadership, the organization has grown tremendously to serve 7 counties in various capacities. Her main focus here today is to improve the access to childcare. That's essentially what we're all trying to accomplish. Prior to working at Bright Futures, Kathleen worked as a director at an infant toddler center. Kathleen has held a passion for early childhood care and education and brings that enthusiasm and dedication to the organization each day. She's lived in Telluride for 25 years and has 2 children. And I'm also told she actually has a lovely husband that I haven't met.
Nice, like you didn't put that in my bio.
She didn't put that in her bio, so Casey watches this video, he'll appreciate that, I'm sure. Chrissy Simmons is the executive director and principal of Maslow Academy of Applied Learning here in Montrose. Maslow Academy is an early childhood center providing loving care and education for children ages 6 weeks old to 3rd grade. So additionally, she is an instructor at Colorado Mesa University, currently teaching early childhood courses. So we're really happy to have her. In addition to that, Chrissy has her master's degree in elementary education from the University of Phoenix and has completed additional elementary leadership graduate coursework at Adams State University. And most recently, and we're really proud of her for this, she became a Buell Early Childhood Leadership Fellow at the University of Colorado, Denver, which is a really big thing. Chrissy taught kindergarten through 5th grade for a total of 8 years in Tucson, Arizona, and Montrose, Colorado. And in 2011, she transitioned out of public schools and helped create a nonprofit independent school, the Maslow Academy. She's passionate about early childhood education and advocating for the children and families of the Montrose community. So, warm welcome to Chrissy.
Sorry, a little technical difficulty.
There we go. You just click the right. Yeah.
So thanks for coming today. Can everyone hear me? As Steve said, I am an instructor at Colorado Mesa University, and you'll learn through our presentation that one of the issues of access to early childhood is the workforce and providing child care centers and home centers with qualified workers. So I teach the classes 101, 102, 103, and 113. And I have some wonderful students here today that are just going to tell you why they think early childhood education is important and why they want to be involved in early childhood education. So I'm going to call them up. They're going to kick us off before we get into the facts and other things. So come on, girls, come on up. And I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Carolina Cox, and I'm a senior at Montrose High School. This is why early childhood education is important and why I want to be a part of it.
Can you hold the microphone closer to you? Thank you.
Early childhood education provides children with the tools and opportunities they need to learn and grow successfully. But beyond that, early childhood education provides opportunities for families to focus on work, for the community to have quality working members of society, and for schools to have active and involved students. I want to be involved in early childhood education because I realize the importance of quality childhood education and want to contribute to the growth of the community and to the success of children within this community.
My name is Jaden Key. I'm a senior at Montrose High School, and this is why early childhood education is important to me and why I want to be involved. It is because it teaches kids in a non-traditional way. They learn how to walk or roll over, how to play cooperatively, how to follow rules, and many other things. Not only is it important for the child, but also for the community. When there is a lack of child care, it causes parents to have to quit their jobs and stay with their children. This causes families' incomes to be cut in half, causing them to not be able to afford their mortgage or rent. And with so many people having to quit their jobs, businesses also have to shut down. And this will have a huge effect on the entire community. I want to be a part of early childhood education because I want to help children find their love for education. I also want to see the excitement on their faces when they learn something new.
My name is Mercedes McCants, and I am a junior at Peak Academy. And this is why I think early childhood education is important and why I want to be a part of it. Early childhood education is very important because it helps teach young children about life skills. Right now, there's a major child care desert in Colorado and all over the U.S. It is especially important from birth to age 5 because between those ages, roughly 90% of a child's brain is already developed. They develop social, emotional, and cognitive skills. In the long run, childhood education is important because not only does it help the child, but it also helps the parents. I want to be a part of early childhood education because I've seen what it does to families that don't have access or the money to provide child care to their child. In a research study called the Paris Schools Study, it shows that with the right teachers and the right materials, the child can grow up and become a quality member of society. I want to help most, if not all, of the children to get the early childhood education that they need.
I feel like a parent. I'm like beaming with pride over these ladies. They did so well. It's awesome. So we're here today to kind of, what they said encapsulates everything that we're going to talk about too. But we're here to tell you how important early childhood education is and why you as a community should be involved and care about it.
I think so. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So we're going to start with just the overall importance of early childhood education, specifically around those positive child outcomes. So as one of the lovely students in the back said, that 90% of brain development occurs within the first 5 years of life. And then those positive early learning experiences are super vital not only for school readiness, but for lifelong success. When children have access to high quality child care and preschool options, they are more likely to graduate from high school. They are more likely to go on to college and get high paying jobs. And they're less likely to rely on public assistance and less likely to be incarcerated. So those are some pretty big indicators there of when children have access to quality child care. Also, economists over the years have drilled down this return on investment, this ROI, and basically your return on investment in early childhood education is upwards of $16 for every dollar invested. So it's definitely a good investment as well. This is our video time. So we are just going to show you a quick snippet of a documentary that was put out by PBS a few years ago. It's called Are We Crazy About Our Kids? And this is just a trailer, so it is going to leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger. But we just feel like, again, it underscores the importance of early childhood education not just for healthy child development, but for society as a whole. And again, the full documentary is available, and it's about an hour.
I'd also want you to think as you're watching this video and as you're listening to us speak and all the facts that we give you, is you out there in the audience, how does this affect you personally? How many of you are grandparents? How many of you, let's see real quick. How many are grandparents right now? Awesome. I should make you stand up. Do some exercise. We shouldn't sit for very long. How many of you have children right now in childcare or in elementary school? There's one. How many are business owners? How many are retired people that once owned a business? Okay. How many of you have gone to a restaurant or a business in Montrose and found it closed recently because of certain reasons? Okay. I just want you to think about that. How many of you have gone to the hospital or have doctors in this area? Everyone is affected by childcare. So I want you to think about that as we're talking today.
Wait, before you start it, here's my new little saying.
Okay.
That everyone relies on someone who relies on childcare. So you just basically.
It's true. Everyone in this. So why you? Why not? Right?
So I think we need to scroll down. Is it?
Yeah. Are we good?
Yeah.
Children's experiences during their first 5 years are more consequential than we ever thought.
We know that the brain develops the most in the first 5 years of life. By age 6, 95% of the child's brain is already developed. By age 6. So these early years are very, very important.
And of all people, not just parents, pediatricians, and teachers, but economists are paying attention.
That's a word, by the way.
Yeah.
Neural synaptic connections are occurring in a child's brain at ages 0 to 3 at a rate of 700 a second.
The worst fallacy in this business is to assume that the abilities, the motivations, the skills of people are fixed at birth. They are not.
What happens in that 36-month period is important as far as whether a child is going to be trusting and curious and active and able to interact with other people in a productive way.
What I came to understand was that ability was multiple in nature, but you could actually start, even at the earliest years, and increase the possibilities of individuals for their life. So that became very exciting to me.
Here on the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, expertise is pre-Civil War banking. I worried a lot about business cycles and financial crises and unemployment and inflation. How does somebody with that background get involved with early childhood, prenatal to 5?
Keep writing your articles.
You have to figure out what's the best investment. It's going to be early childhood education, making sure these kids start healthy and ready to learn.
Science has demonstrated that a child's earliest experiences are vital to building the foundation for lifelong individual success in school and in life.
We can put dollar values on almost anything.
Economists are adding new data to this argument, studying 2 initiatives in particular: high-quality early care and preschool, calculating how much they cost and how much they pay off to our economy. And they're worried, not because we're spending too much, but because we're spending too little where it matters most.
There it is. Just the wind blew. So looking at Montrose and why we should be paying attention to high quality early childhood education here locally and why it's so important now versus maybe like back in the 70s when I was a baby, my mom was able to stay at home while my dad went to work and raise us. And I don't even think I went to preschool. I just went straight to kindergarten. But in today's society, it really is more typical for both parents to have to be in the workforce and have jobs in order to make ends meet. And recently, there was a child care needs assessment conducted locally right here in Montrose that showed that 69% of families who were surveyed had both parents in the workforce, pretty much full-time. However, parents are struggling here to find childcare, and this is because Montrose is along with a lot of other rural towns in Colorado, Montrose is known as something called a child care desert, and I am going to pass it over to Chrissy to kind of talk to you more about what that means, what that term means.
So what is a child care desert? When you think of desert, you think of, whoa, that's loud. You think of dry, barren, desolate. So think of that with child care. It means that there's not enough spaces for kids. Families can't go to work. It's a desert out there. There's only a couple large early childhood centers, myself, Maslow Academy, Bright Beginnings in the school district. Then there's a couple smaller centers and home centers. And the study, which has been done over time, many years, and it's shown the same results. But this most recent study shows a really big percentage difference of what is needed and what we have. So on this slide, you'll see Delta, Gunnison, Montrose, Uray, San Miguel, and our population versus the number of slots for students. And this is the population under 5. So if you look at Montrose, 2,641, we only have 741 spots. That's a big difference. Now, some people choose to stay home and have their kids home, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful. But as you heard Kathleen say, that's not always what is possible. And you've heard the girls say, and you've heard it on our video, is that in this day and age, most people have to both work, or we even have single families working too, and they need someplace safe and licensed and a place where they can have their children. I want you to notice something, and Delta is just as bad, but I want you to combine Delta and Montrose together, because at my place, when I'm interviewing people and showing them around, I have many people that live in Delta that work in Montrose and have their kids here in Montrose. Or vice versa, I'm sure on there, that they live in Montrose and work in Delta. And I've had people drive clear from Ridgeway, because there's no place in Ridgeway to have their children. So they would drive from Ridgeway to be in my center, and then go back to work in Ridgeway. So you can imagine the stress and that puts on a family. Not only money, they're paying for childcare, which is not cheap, and they're also having to drive all those miles. And they're losing out on time with that drive, being with their family after work. So childcare desert is exactly what you envision in your brain when you hear desert. That's where we're at right now. What does this mean? Well, there's a loss in so much. There's a loss in earnings, productivity, and revenue. So if you put your business hat on or your consumer hat on, you're going to lose out. Like I said, have you gone to a restaurant lately? It's not all because of childcare that they're closed, because there's this crazy thing called COVID that we're in right now, but a lot of it is. So yesterday I had a lady call me and wanted a spot at my school. And she's been looking for work, and she was so excited because UPS was hiring. They were hiring temporary work. And so she called me. She was on our waiting list. We were full, and she said, is there any way I can get in? Because I have this opportunity to get this job through UPS. But they won't hire me unless they know I have childcare secured. So I never heard that either. But it's because people are getting hired, then they don't have childcare, and they're having to leave work. or they're getting jobs, but they can't find a place. So they're hiring these people, investing in them, putting them through orientations, training them for them to quit. So it's a huge loss of productivity and revenue for our community. If you have a restaurant that's closed, how is that going to make money for our economy? If we're trying to have people come to our city to work, but they have no place to take their children, how is that going to work? Another story is the hospital calls me quite often and says, hey, I'm a recruiter and I want to book a tour for one of my people, this doctor we're trying to recruit. Can we get a tour of your place? Sure, but we're on a wait. And they said some of the first things that people say is, hey, we would love to live in Montrose. It's beautiful, there's skiing, Telluride, all this stuff. But tell me about your childcare and schools that you have available for my kids. And I know the school district is dealing with this too. They're overrun, right? Their buildings don't support the kids that they have. So we can't get people to come to our community to work, to do all these great things. We have Colorado Outdoors trying to expand, and we can't get them here unless we have spots for these kids to go. Quality childcare spots.
So to piggyback on Chrissy, so the overall workforce and economic health of Montrose really depends on childcare and access to childcare. So in order for Montrose to have a strong overall workforce, we need to make sure there's enough childcare. And when I'm talking about like across all industries, so healthcare, K-12 education, higher ed, retail, restaurants, lodging, we really need to make sure there is enough childcare to be able to handle childcare needs within all of those industries. And basically when there is enough childcare, folks are either able to stay in the workforce after starting a family or re-enter the workforce after they start a family. It also, like Chrissy said, it increases productivity at work because families aren't worried about their child being in a safe, stable environment. It attracts new families to the community, like you said, and it really does give Montrose that competitive edge when recruiting for kind of specialized careers. So I'm thinking, and you just brought up the UPS scenario, I'm thinking of like the medical field with Montrose Memorial Hospital. They've also reached out to us as well about trying to recruit new doctors in specialized positions here in Montrose. So why not just create more childcare slots? Why can't we just do that? Why can't we just scale up childcare? So a major factor to consider here is that childcare does not operate like your typical business. So your typical business model really passes along the cost of its service or its product to its customer. Yet childcare is not able to pass along the true cost of its service to its clientele, which are the working families, without pricing them out altogether. And as a result, child care providers are really left to piece together their budgets through outside fundraising and grant writing, neither of which are reliable year after year. And definitely the biggest budget item in child care is personnel. And this has to do with child to staff ratios that must be maintained and other regulatory measures that you have to follow when you're delivering high quality early childhood education. So child care continues to struggle and recruit staff because they can't pay those competitive wages or offer those benefits like a health benefit package or even a paid time off benefit package in an effort to keep their costs down because they know the parents can't afford that. So it has become even more of a challenge to recruit and retain early childhood staff, especially now because of COVID, because all other industries and businesses are also recruiting for workers as well. So I am going to pass it over to Chrissy to share kind of some other challenges relative to families and communities. I kind of touched on the provider challenges right there.
I'm going to extend the
Yeah.
piece about the lack of qualified workforce because before I was in the education, before I went and became a teacher, I used to run restaurants with my husband. And I didn't have to worry if they had background checks, which are super important. I'm not complaining by any ways. But I didn't have to worry about background checks. I didn't have to worry about classes and courses. If I needed a server or a bartender, I just needed to worry about where did they work last? Did they come into work? Are they ready to work? Do I think they're quality? And I could hire them. Childcare is completely different, as well it should be. We have requirements from the licensing that require certain coursework, to be in charge of certain areas, or to be left alone with children. You can have unqualified workers, but they have to be with someone supervising children. And honestly, that's really hard to find in a rural area. It's really hard to find in Denver, actually. You can't, it's just not like I can open a door and say, hey, we're hiring. By the way, I am having a hiring job fair on November 20th at my school on Saturday, 12 to 3. You will get application and an interview and all that. But anyways, so one of the things our community has done in CMU, and Steve is really passionate about this, is building our pipeline to provide higher education for these people so that we can get them in the workforce. These wonderful ladies are going to high school right now. They're also getting dual credit from the college. So they, when they're done with our program here at CMU, they will be able to go into a child care center, be an assistant teacher with a little bit more experience, a lead teacher, but they can be left alone with children. They will be hopefully highly trained, good job girls, and compassionate and wanting to work in the business. And that's going to take them a year. There are some fast track things, and that's important too, but you can see how finding a workforce for a child care center is super difficult. It's not like I can post up that poster and come in and just apply. And the same for the school district. With their preschool, they have the same needs that they have as well, and it's very difficult to find. I know that it's difficult for you guys. You've had to close, we had to too, because you got enough staff. Substitutes, so it's difficult. The overhead expenses, Kathleen talked about that. Most of my expenses in my center, I think it's like 65% or more, goes to wages. And yet I still can't pay my staff what I really think they deserve. Because if I did that, childcare would be probably close to $90 a day. And I don't think many people can afford $90 a day. So it's not a business that's lucrative. I don't make money in it. Right now, specifically in Montrose, and pretty much across the nation, but really bad in Montrose, there's very few infant toddler spaces. So if you have a mom, and I've heard this before, who has a baby, went on maternity leave, is excited because she wants to get a promotion, she has to turn down that promotion because she has nowhere for her child to go. So people resort to friends, family, and neighbors, which is great. You know, you have a family member, but guess what? They're only going to probably want to do that for 6 months to a year. And they probably have all the great intentions in the world and love and care for your children, but they also have lives too, and this is not their career. You have people that are watching kids, their intentions are good, I'm not saying it's bad, but they aren't licensed. And licensing is a really huge, wonderful component of what we do because it provides oversight and makes everything safe. So there's so many interesting little pieces that make childcare really hard to run. Providers' hours don't fit the work schedule. This is really difficult. We have people that work swing shifts, and most childcare centers are only open during the day. It's very difficult for childcare centers to open all 24 hours. And again, we talked about not being affordable. Gosh, this is just a big bummer talk, isn't it? I mean, wow. But really, and then communities lack afford a real estate to build facilities. This is huge because the city has done a wonderful job way back when we presented to the city about zoning laws and please change the zoning laws because we can't find good places, and they did that, but then it's still difficult to follow the licensing rules and regulations. It's not really easy. We have to have a certain amount of square footage for playgrounds, and they can't be too close to certain businesses. I'm a nonprofit in my business, so I lose money every year. What makes me keep going is grant writing and fundraising and gifts, because but that's not consistent. So everything I'm saying for you business people does not seem like that would be a sustainable business, yet it has to be. Because if we don't make it sustainable, our entire economy isn't sustainable. So we want to bring awareness. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for you, hey, join, give us money. It's not that. We're asking you to be aware and to think back to that question that I asked you in the beginning of how does this affect you personally? In that video, you saw a gentleman who was a Civil War economist. How did that affect him? But he found a way to be involved, and he jumped at it. So you in the audience, what are some of the solutions? Kathleen is going to go over a couple of them.
So using that local child care needs assessment that was just conducted in Montrose to create more slots. So really making those data-driven decisions based on the 800, I think about 800 families filled that out. I mean, that is that is a very good sample size of what kind of child care we need to be scaling up. Infant and toddler care came up over and over. Formalized care that's offered consistently Monday through Friday during a typical work week also came up, and those non-traditional hours types of care did too. So, you know, over the next couple of years, Bright Futures will definitely be really using that child care needs assessment as a guiding document on how to thoughtfully scale up child care, and child care that can be sustainable, I think is a big piece. And one model is licensed home care. That is a very sustainable way to scale up specifically infant and toddler care. So we'll definitely be engaging in some activities over the next couple of years around that. Also partnering with CMU to help build that early childhood workforce pipeline. So over the next couple of years, there will be some kind of free offerings of ECE 101 and 103, and what does that look like for Steve.
We just found that out too. That's exciting.
Yeah. For Steve and Bright Futures to recruit new folks into the field, get them in the seats to take some higher ed, and then get them placed at some high quality sites. So Steve and I are actually meeting after this about that. And really engaging those informal child care providers. So Chrissy, it's family, friend, and neighbor, basically. So there is some family, friend, and quite a bit of family, friend, and neighbor care going on here. Bright Futures engaging with them about the importance of becoming licensed and what are the benefits, and really supporting them in formalizing their business. So Chrissy's going to go over the next couple of.
So again, we're not asking for money, but awareness. So how can you involve? I want you to think about time, treasure, and talent. So what does that mean? So you saw that gentleman in the video. He found a niche that he can be involved in. Time, treasure, and talent. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's you have a local child care center or a school district early childhood center or a home center that you want to read to children. Go do that. Be involved with them. Maybe you have a coffee group that meets after this every Wednesday, and you go disseminate more of the information that you learned from the forum. And someone in your group starts talking about how they have to miss next week's meeting because they have to, watch their grandchild. And so find that open door, jump through it and say, hey, look what I learned. Be aware. So that's time, your treasure. Yeah, that's money. You know, if you feel like you want to donate to people, donate to people. There's great foundations in town, Montrose Community Foundation, there's schools, donate to people. And then talent, again, goes back to maybe you're really a great business mind. Maybe you want to help a child care center get started. Maybe you have some talents with taxes, or you're a CPA and you're retired. How can you be involved in that? What could you do? Maybe you can help CMU get the word out about classes, or teach classes. I don't know. It could be all kinds of things. Again, just be involved. And this is not political or anything like that, but if you see something in legislator come up and you're curious about it, and it's about childcare and how to support it, maybe research it and say, hey, do I want to vote yes or no for this? Really get into it. That's how you can help, because I guarantee over the next year or two, you're going to be hearing a lot of things through this needs assessment and through the fact that the community now realizes a little bit more how important childcare is. COVID kind of brought that to light a little bit too, I think. So those are the blessings of that. But that's really what we're here for today. So now we've got a little bit of time. If anybody has any questions for Kathleen or me, or wants to share a story to kind of let people know what's going on, we'd love to do that, and I'll also pass it on to Steve.
And we would also love to hear if you have any solutions for us as well.
I don't mean to sound like it's so bad, because it's not. It's wonderful. The kids are wonderful.
Before we pass it on, I know there's this new buzzword about employer-based childcare, and some grants out there to incentivize businesses to offer employer-based childcare on site. So, you know, if you're plugged in with a business and you think that might be a an attractive model for them, we would love to hear about that too.
Questions?
Oh, that's a great presentation. I think that the age group, 0 to 25 is probably the most underserved group in our communities, across the country. But you painted a kind of a dim picture, but I think that the picture is actually darker than that. You have just think of all of the parents that are working that have latchkey children that have no supervision. We had the housing authority in here about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and in the school district alone, there's 262 homeless children in the community. It's just really sad. My question to you, though, is the solution to this. Do you think it's a public solution? Do you think it's a private solution? Looking at providing child care and so forth, or do you think there's a combination of both?
It's both. It's public and private coming together to solve the issue. And I feel like Montrose is there just with the, with the activity we've around the child care needs assessment. It definitely seems to be on a lot of people's radar, and there are some very much business-minded folks in Montrose that, it'll take all of us to try to solve the issue, but it's definitely going to take kind of both of those industries coming together.
Can I say that too? I think that also private businesses need to get involved in it and realize that, and we're not talking taxes or anything like that. I mean, that could be a solution too, but that private businesses, if they want to have people come and work for them, that they're going to have to think how to add the benefit to what they're offering to people, because really it's a benefit that pays off, because you're going to have people that are, and you mentioned this, that are on task. They're not worried about where their children are. They don't have to call out because they don't have child care. So it's really more profitable. And I think businesses, I have this cool dream, and I don't know how to even do it, so I'm going to hand it to you.
What is your dream?
I would love to have like a little coalition or something of businesses that come together and that maybe have, again, this is pie in the sky, like a pot of money that a co-op, a child co-op or something like that, where they can offset costs for their employers and help support the child care centers. Again, it's just really 360 approach, but just I think businesses in a community need to come together more.
I mean, what a great retention tool,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I know I would stay at that business if.
I'm a dreamer, so I don't know how to do it, so
Yeah.
anybody else wants to do it, they can.
So there's this is the state regulated, system, highly regulated. Yeah, but the state also offers tax credits for donors and businesses and things like that. Now, this could be one of your solutions. Now, the tax credit basically says that if you have donated a certain amount of money, you get a 50% tax credit, which is actually dollars off of your bottom line, and you can use that over a period of 5 years. And this would be something that our business friends here would, could be involved in, have some type of an organization or a coalition.
And that's a really good point. We didn't even talk about that. I know we were
The
going
child
to.
care tax credit.
It's huge, and that's been around for a while too.
Other questions?
Well, thank you, ladies. Great presentation. 2 questions, one for Kathleen and one for Chrissy. What is the difference between Maslow and Bright Futures? I probably missed that, but maybe you could explain. And then the second question is, based on the slide on the screen, between Montrose and Delta, it looked like we have about a 4,000 or so demand for childcare. And is it accurate to say that we're only meeting about 25% of that?
So based on the child care needs assessment, the current demand right now is that we need 200 more slots today. I don't have the child care needs assessment in front of me, but they also did a projection, I think all the way to 2025 and beyond.
That gap grew,
And the gap
closer
grew,
to like 700-800.
so Bright Futures go, my eyes are set on that 200, that 200 number low grade. So Bright Futures, we're an early childhood nonprofit. So we go into Chrissy's center and offer free professional development and quality improvement coaching and direct coaching to her teachers for them to gain skills around social emotional learning.
Maslow is a school.
Is a school where she's actually accepting children and providing child care. She's doing like that.
But we're actually a nonprofit too, and that's
Yes.
one of the solutions that I think is really important for. So I say, what is your talent? If someone wants to open a child care center or wants to become a nonprofit, because I'm not loud enough.
It was difficult for us. In the beginning, if you're a for-profit business, it almost makes it impossible. And you'll have noticed over the years that many child care centers have closed down left and right. And so I truly believe that my center has been around for 11 years, 12 years, thanks, Lori. And I've been with them for 11, they've been around for 12. It wouldn't have stayed open if we didn't have that nonprofit status, so that we're able to qualify for more grants. And so she's our pipeline for some of those grants, plus I have a grant writer. But if you know somebody that needs help and you have that talent to get them to the nonprofit status, that would be really helpful to a child care center.
It's 1/3.
Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, we thought it was 25%, it's 1/3.
Thank you. Can you talk about some of the actual dollars and cents? How much does a parent pay for full-day childcare if they are a full pay? Is that the true cost of you delivering that service? And how does sliding scale or voucher system work for childcare, and what are those folks paying for childcare?
So I'm just going to give you what we charge. We have 2 scales. We have our full price, actually we have 3. We have our full price. We have a discount for those who pay on time and who set up ACH. You're laughing, but it works. And we also have a subsidy program that is subsidized by the Buell Foundation that we've had for 6 years now. A full price infant care for 5 days a week is $1,200 or approximately $1,200. The discounted price would be about $900 some dollars. That's for 5 days a week. It goes down, so,
For a month?
For a month. Okay. There are some cheaper places. We did raise our prices a little bit, but again, we have that discount. Everybody qualifies for that discount if they pay on time. So you could save around $900. For a potty-trained preschooler, it's closer to, it's about $150 less. A sliding scale, there is Colorado Childcare Assistance Program through the Department of Health and Human Services that people can qualify for, which is a great program that our county provides, and that's a sliding scale based on income. They can pay as little as nothing, and we get money from the county, or about 75% of the cost. Our grant-funded subsidy program allows for people, it captures a broader range because CCAP has a cliff effect. If you make $1 more, you're out. So I've also had people say they aren't going to take the new job because it pays more, because they can't afford to, because they lose their CCAP. So we created this subsidy that you can get 25 or 50% off, and it's 200%, it's over the amount that CCAP, so it kind of cushions that fall in hopes to promote people from, go ahead and take that job and that promotion. Now, the average in Montrose, you do a study on that every year. Do you know the average in Montrose, what the cost is for private pay? It's close to 40 per day, it's not much different than mine.
It's close to 40. I was gonna kind of piggyback on that kind of the sweet spot for families, they should be paying no more than 7 to 10% of their income on childcare. And right now, it's closer to 20 to 30% of their income is being spent on childcare, especially if they have more than one child in childcare, which is more than what a lot of folks are paying for their mortgage. So,
but no, that's not true cost of care at all.
And that's still not covering all of Chrissy's budget to pay her staff. Yeah.
Did that answer your question? Thanks, Barbara.
Minimum wage.
Other questions? Marv, got a question.
What does it take in the way of education and licensing to become a child care provider, an employee?
What does it take to become an employee of a child care center?
How long does it take?
Depends on if you want to be a lead teacher where you're by yourself in a classroom, which is kind of where we want to be, or an assistant teacher.
So minimum requirements to be an assistant teacher, to be an aide is what it's called in licensing, is you have to be, you can be 16, but to do infants you have to be 18. You have to pass 5 background checks, which is fantastic, so it's very safe. And discretion of the center. But that person is very limited in what they can do. They cannot be with children alone. So they can just be in there with a qualified person, a lead teacher. It's called ECT qualified, early child care teacher. To get that position, you need 4 classes, which is what CMU offers. You need some experience hours. There's other different pathways to get there. That takes, depending on the school, like for us at CMU, it would take a year's worth of classes to get those 4. And there's also an experience piece with that, which that is kind of built into the program. My students have been in the schools every week, and then 102 classes, predominantly all methods where they're actually in the classroom. There are some fast track options, but again, it's more than just a month of work. It's typically about 6 months to a year. Then to be an infant teacher and to be the infant teacher supervisor, you actually have to have 2 more classes on top of that and more experience, because that is our most vulnerable population for obvious reasons. And so you have to take a little bit extra to be in charge of that. And you can't have an infant room without one of those infant toddler supervisors.
What's the starting wage for a staff member?
You probably have some average pieces for that. I mean, obviously, if there's no experience, it's minimum wage, but average in your, because they collect data on that.
$11 to $13 for that early childhood teacher.
Our average is a little higher than that.
Okay.
But yeah.
And then, you know, as you move up in the ranks in early childhood, the pay doesn't usually follow that, unfortunately. So you do get paid a little bit more to be an infant toddler supervisor. And then, you know, there's that director role as well. So a lot of folks in early childhood are, you know, having to access public subsidies in order to make ends meet. And that's why we're in a really tough spot right now. I mean, it was tough before COVID, but now with all the help wanted signs, childcare is kind of at the bottom of the barrel as far as a choice of, you know, of where to work, because you're not able to make a livable wage, and then it oftentimes doesn't come with any benefits or you know, health or retirement or PTO benefits. So
there was a slide that you talked about, is that why don't you just raise prices? And so that's why we can't raise prices like you can at a restaurant where they're going to charge you 50 cents more for a tea, which kind of offsets that cost or whatever. We don't like to pay that extra 50 cents, but you're going to. So that is very difficult. Again, gloom and doom. It doesn't mean to be gloom and doom, but that's why there needs to be an influx of assistance by the community. So going back to your first question.
So that's $2 to $3 less than a starting wage at McDonald's.
yes.
But not because we want it that way. I mean, I've done some things to be able to pay my people a little bit more, but
I'm gonna put our superintendent here on the spot. You have early childhood as well, and from the perspective of a former teacher, teachers always wish they could get their kids in the school district early childhood center. I'm sure other people in the community wish that as well. Would you talk about the constraints, why that can't happen?
Well, right now, when we are very similar to having the problems that Maslow is having. We're landlocked as far as our space. We would love to provide more slots, but frankly, we have a preschool trailer park that is just really mobile classrooms, and so we are in desperate need of more space. And so we have a master capital plan that's going on right now, and we're looking at that as a #1 issue for us and possible solutions moving forward. But we are in the state right now that we are only able to offer preschool experiences for those students that specifically qualify for being in an at-risk category. So we would love to be able to provide preschool slots for all children, but again, we need the space.
And what is at risk?
At risk could be several different categories, from income to disability status. So there's several different at-risk categories.
So with the picture as bleak as it has been painted this morning, how do you all stay excited about what you're doing and not get discouraged about your bright future?
you're gonna, I need this. Hold that thought, I'm gonna ask you.
You hold, I'll answer from the school district. We're starting something called a forest preschool next August. So it will be entirely outside for our little ones. That helps to solve a little bit of our space issue when we can have them outside. We have to, qualify for the licensing part of that and jump through a few hoops there, but it will be an experience on our new outdoor ed center, Outer Range, and we will provide that outdoor forest preschool for as many kids as we possibly can.
Okay, here you go. My thunder is, I want it bigger here.
Yeah.
This is why. That's why. And that, gosh, come on. That is why I do this every day. I can't hear. Thank you. That's why. How can you resist that?
Ditto. Right? I mean, you've been an educator for a long time. You're from here. And this is our community. So this is why we do it. A center like mine is not in competition with the school district. We're in it for right here. And so, yes, gloom and doom, but it's something that we all have to do, whether we have kids or not. It affects all of us. And those are about the cutest kids right there I think I've ever seen.
And it truly is the most magical age. And, you know, what fills my bucket and warms my heart is the coaching that we are doing in Maslow at the preschool with Penny's staff. And just, just knowing that we are changing the lives of the children that we do have access to. And I just look forward to having access to more children. We are, like I said, over the next, couple of years and beyond, really going to be engaging with existing family, friend, and neighbor providers and getting them excited to become licensed and start to really deliver more of that formal care. And we're just super grateful for community members like you to kind of give us the space to raise awareness. Yeah.
Well, and sorry, girls, you know I love to put you on the spot. Those girls back there too.
Yeah.
We talk about this every day. Oh, I remember my kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
I remember this. And they're doing so. Those girls did a great job, and that's a testament to their preschool, elementary, high school teachers. It's super important.
Other questions? Anything at all?
Obviously, the subject interests me, but what relationship do you have with Boys and Girls Clubs?
That is a good question. Boys and Girls Clubs is a very important part to our community, and actually,
My school in particular, we've tried to partner with them many times. I'm going to point someone else out, Lori Sharp, who is a grant writer and works with them a lot. She's also works with me and writes grants for me, and we've tried to be very collaborative, and it's a great organization. We'd love to do more with them if possible. We've thought about sharing buildings, we've thought about all kinds of different ways. Still would love to do that in the future, just haven't quite figured out how to do it.
And I might piggyback on top of that one. One of the programs that we actually put together here recently, it's a very informal one, but one where Carrie is the superintendent of schools and I'm the director of the campus here, and Bud Taylor, who is the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, and Mary Steinbach, who is Montrose Recreation District, all are going to get together routinely and talk about those pathways and how do we catch all the kids, because clearly education and child care education is not a competition. You know, it's something that's super important to our community. Most people don't think about it, and I think these ladies did a great job of making sure that we're all more aware of it, and that's really what we want to do, is just make sure that our community is aware that we have a big problem here. We have a lot of cool things going on, but now we need to worry about these youngsters as they come through our system here, and how can we improve that quality. So, you know, one of the things that I'm most excited about personally is being involved in this kind of thing. I get to dabble in a lot of different things. The three students that presented today, how exciting is that a student from Montrose High School can come down and actually, and Peak Academy, can come down and present in front of the community about something they have passion about. We need more than 3 students. We need 13 students, we need 20 students. We need more people involved in this kind of an atmosphere. One other program that I would like to see us figure out a way to do here in the community, it was one when I was young as an engineer. They had engineers that would go into education centers and teach as a practicing engineer. And basically what they had was grants and foundations that paid and augmented their salaries. Obviously, it's one of those things we've got to figure out a way to raise that salary. It can't just be for a for-fun job. People still have Kia payments and insurance payments and those kinds of things. Life happens. And this community is very creative. We will always come up with solutions. Seeing people here that are business leaders, and the Dragoo's and the Pattersons and others that, you know, they're involved in this community. They're not just here, they're involved, and we can solve these problems, you know, collectively. And I think it's wonderful that Everybody's here to listen to these things. Spread the word, be aware, and if you have time, talent, or treasure, I'm trying to figure out if I have time, I guess, you know.
You have lots of talent.
And so participate, you know, stay involved. It's great that the city's involved, the county's involved, everybody's involved in this program.